Let's not forget, over the past few trading sessions, there's one particular segment in the entire healthcare space that has been in focus, and that has to be the hospital counters, right? Be it Yatharth, be it Apollo Hospitals, Max, all of them have been in focus, Srishti.
Well, yes, and today on the Buy Now Sell Now lens, we are tracking the pulse of the hospital space, because recently there has been a news flow where Supreme Court has come out quite strongly saying that there's a lot of disparity between the public and the private healthcare spends, and if central government doesn't take any step regarding this, then they will go ahead with the implementation of CGHS rates. Now, on the Supreme Court's recent commentary, earlier today we caught up with the managements of Narayan Health as well as Yatharth Hospitals and even Aster DM Healthcare. So let's go across and listen in to their views on the same.
The Supreme Court suggestion on capping rates is an impractical suggestion, but the anger is real. The opacity in the pricing structure is real. The impression that a lot of people have that healthcare is expensive is real. Some of these can be addressed, some of these simply cannot. If you look at healthcare costs going up in this country, that is simply a factor of more and more treatments being available. The reason why people are finding it unaffordable is that you can't expect people to pay out of pocket for a lot of things in healthcare. So there are solutions that the industry is willing to propose, but without getting into draconian things like price fixing for everything.
I think in general, regulating price rates in private sector is not the most practical situation, not the most practical solution to making healthcare much more affordable. As far as we are concerned, I think our pricing is already quite less compared to other listed players. We are, having almost pricing of less 20 to 25% cheaper than the likes of other listed players. So for us, similarly on the RPOP side, so for us, it wouldn't make that much of a significant difference, but at the same point of time, regulating pricing and reducing rates and implementing CGS rates, it's not the answer to make private healthcare more affordable. If government really wants to make it much more affordable, there are many ways to do it. But reducing the pricing, that would just lead to hospitals then also compromising on certain aspects. The doctor payout, the doctor's salary, which is quite linked to the volumes that they generate, will also be reduced at the same amount of time. The pricing of lab reagents tests, the diagnostic that comes into play will also we have to reduce then, as well as pricing is also regulated largely by private insurance. So it's not just hospital sector which involves, it's a 360-degree approach where private insurances, pharma companies, diagnostic lab companies, and hospitals will be taken into the account. So that's why it's probably not the most practical solution, but let's see how the government goes about this.
We being a very responsible healthcare player, we do understand where the government is coming from, why the Supreme Court has come up with this directive. Some kind of regulation is expected. We were anticipating in terms of pricing, but as long as the regulation is within the limit where right now what you see in the private healthcare space is an inflection point. You see a huge penetration of the organized player into the tier 2, tier 3 cities. For example, Aster Group, 70% of our beds are in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. We have only 30% of our beds in metro. This momentum should not be lost. 1A. At the same time, if the price regulation is going to help the patient, Indian patients, or any foreign patients who access our healthcare for making it affordable, and then also access the quaternary and tertiary care facilities in India, what we stand out for in the global market. It's a right move to have, but at the same time, we need to be mindful of how much are we going to regulate the private healthcare players.
All right, that's the word coming in from all the market players, especially the important hospital segments across India. But how will the standardization of hospital charges affect hospital players, and what are the key points the regulator must keep in mind? Yes, let's hear out Nikunj Dalmia's take, who is the editor-in-chief for ET Now and ET Now Swadesh.
It's a regulation which is easy to flag off but very difficult to implement, and if it is implemented, it is not going to be having a very strong detrimental impact on the profitability of the hospitals. B, the need for quality healthcare will come at a price, and that is something which the regulator should be cognizant of. B, in terms of the big picture scenario, the big picture scenario is very simple. There is more demand and there is less supply. C, the most important one for our viewers, hospital stocks have seen a great run up. these are businesses which will require constant capex, uh, constant upgrades in terms of facilities and in terms of the requirement for healthcare equipment, and the entire profit sharing model which is there with doctors is not going to be having a very large uptick on the margins. So it's safe to assume that the wave of huge margin surge, I guess, in the healthcare sector is behind us, and these stocks are trading at P multiples which are now nearing consumer companies which are growing without capital requirement, but the hospital sector requires a lot of capital. So if you're looking at investing in some of the hospital stocks, you should be a bit wary at the current juncture. If you get a downturn largely because of any regulatory action, that is the time you should be buying it. And then depending on your comfort, whether you like companies which are all India chain-based chain-based hospitals like, let's say, a Fortis or a Apollo, or you like doctor-based models which are small but are growing in big cities, that's a judgment call. But there are a lot of models which currently are there when it comes to the entire healthcare sector.
The view coming in from Nikunj Dalmia, but let's get on board our experts for today to understand what should you do with the investment in the hospital space. If you're already invested in the counters, then what should be your take? And if you are looking to invest in them, then is this the right price? Because you have a lot of views coming in with a lot of analysts as well. So let me bring on board first Ashish Maheshwari as well as Kunal. Both are very good morning to both of you. Thank you so much, Ashish and Kunal, for joining us on ET Now. And Ashish, while we were taking a take coming in from all the hospital players, most of the hospital players, we also took a view from Incred. And they are of the view that most of these hospital stocks are actually overpriced, given the fact that they are the valuation that they are trading at, it's on par with what the consumption space is trading at. What's your view coming in on that, as well as in the hospital space as a whole? What do you think of these moves? Are they fine? You should look past these moves and look at hospital space, because yes, for a growing country like India, hospital is very essential, isn't it? Healthcare is essential.
I agree with you, and Nikunj has beautifully explained all the aspects with the Supreme Court instructions. But in my view, like this is something like which is in limelight for quite some time, and the government is also not able to sort it out because there's so many moving parts in healthcare industry. And whenever any patient enters, the diagnostic is different, normal OPD is different, and surgery, there are various components. If you see a bill, whenever somebody gets admitted, you see so many heads are there. So, how to regulate all these heads will be a Hercules task, I agree. And in my view, this is not going to like something which will get addressed very soon. Even if you see in developed countries where government facilities are different and private sector always charges premium for medical things, so this is something like which will continue here. As far as valuations are concerned, though these are expensive, but I agree this is a part of now consumption space because more and more people can afford better medical facilities now. And with Ayushman Bharat also up to 5 lakh cover is available for all these individuals. So everybody is able to now afford a better medical facilities. So the valuations are rich, and in my view, this is a sector where very limited options are available as far as listed space is concerned. The valuation will remain rich only, and such downfall, like some stocks have corrected after this news, should be used to accumulate these or hospital stocks. In my view, there's a very bright future of this sector.
Okay, seeing the hospital space having a very bright future, that's the take coming in from Ashish. But Kunal, any stock that stand outs for you within the hospital and the healthcare space? Because in the last week itself, all of these hospital counters were down on the back of the news flow. But any stock opportunity you're spotting at this point?
Good morning.
morning.
Not as of now. I would believe many of these stocks are still going through their phase of correction. So I think they've reached midpoint of a short-term correction. These stocks have corrected by a margin of 10% broadly over the last 1 to 2 weeks. But I believe that they could be at the cusp of at least another 7% to 8% downside, looking at the very recent charts, because the bounce which had happened for these hospital stocks 2 3 days back was very feeble in nature. It was just a few percentage points bounce for many of these stocks, and these stocks are now on the verge of breaking past below their previous swing lows. So I would believe that that's a sign of weakness. I would not be rushing into the trade as of now. Would wait out for the entire leg of the correction to play out, which means potentially another at least 7% correction broadly into the hospital stocks, and that's where one could look to try and buy these names.
All right, so that's the view coming in from both of our experts when it comes to the hospital space.